Thank you for joining this morning. The webinar today is going to be covering finding the right collaboration tool for you. And the you is very important because what you need will be very different from a different organization, even if you're the same size business. So it's a really personal conversation that we're going to have. So firstly, I would like to say I am on camera now. If everything sort of starts becoming a little bit slow because of home broadband or anything, I will take myself off, but just thought I'd let you guys know that. I think we're all quite accustomed to webinars now, but if it's your first time on GoToWebinar, then there is a question box. If you have any questions during the presentation, during the webinar, or even after, please make use of the questions box and we'll cover that off later. There'll also be an opportunity to ask any questions later as well. So briefly what we're going to cover today, we're going to start with what's changed within this world. We'll have a look at market trends, the current market, a few things to consider when sort of looking at your collaboration platforms, and also a comparison of market leaders. So firstly, a very quick introduction into myself. My name's Tori West, and I head up the Modern Workplace for Beckley UK. It's a very beautifully varied pool of things, of which collaboration is obviously very much at the heart of that. So without further ado, I think we'll sort of get cracking into some of the collaboration content. So what hasn't changed in the last 2 years, I think, is probably a better question. The absolute surge of people needing to be remote, of people having to work from anywhere, whatever their situation is. I'm sure there are employees who are still living at home potentially, or who don't have the ability to have a full office space. However, the business doesn't stop. You know, how can we continue to move that forward? And I think we start seeing that across the board. Collaboration tools have become so pinnacle, and some of them we use because we are aware of them in a commercial world. An example is Zoom. You know, everybody was using Zoom for quizzes, etc., and that often filtered down into business. So it's been a real surgence in from a commercial standpoint, but also from a business standpoint. And when we sort of have a look at market trends within sort of workplace collaboration, it's so different now. It's more than just the workplace changing, which I'm sure we're all very sick of hearing that phrase by now. And it's about finding the right thing that supports your users. Like it says here, there's 5 generations of different needs. The people who have just graduated from university have a completely different understanding and a completely different way of using these tools than perhaps somebody who's been in the business for 40 years. And how do you guys, you know, as IT or wherever you sit within the business, how can you support all of those users and make them all happy? Virtual collaboration is also rising. We have to consider that there will still be a lot of virtual workers. For example, if you look at certain companies local to us, so for example, Nationwide, they've announced that they're going to be fully remote. Great. Others are hybrid. So why would that person come into the office? They're mostly coming in to collaborate, but you need to ensure that people who are sitting at home feel just as involved. And the idea of mobility, I know we haven't been traveling very far now, but there is now an expectation that because everybody's managed to work from home for so long, when we start going back into meetings in the city or visiting customers, the expectation will be that you'll be able to use these collaboration platforms from any mobility device. We know that you already have a platform in place. I'd be very surprised if you didn't have a collaboration platform. But what we're going to talk about here is not to displace what you currently have, and maybe it's just going to be a bit of food for thought. But a lot of the time, it's about optimizing the one in which you already have and assessing if it's right for all your business needs. When we look at the current market, there are obviously tons of collaboration platforms. I would say that the key players here are obviously Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Cisco WebEx, Google Meets. And below that, you sort of have the rising stars of these. The merge between telephony and collaboration platforms has really started to take effect in the last 12 months. So you see RingCentral and Starleaf start to come up on the Gartner report. It's a really interesting landscape. There are obviously a lot more collaboration platforms out there. An example of that is Slack, and lots of other bits and bobs that you've probably heard of. I wanted to keep it quite streamlined to some of those that are quite focused. It's very interesting to see where these telephony platforms started and where they are now and what additional features they're bringing in. And it's interesting to see telephony platforms or collaboration platforms merge into both. Everyone's trying to go after that very similar market. Neither of these are bad. None of these are the best thing ever, but it is about assessing what you have and finding if that's right for all areas of the business. When it comes to things to consider, I would say the three key themes here would be users, tools or features, and business processes. Something else to underpin here probably is things like payment. Are you used to paying on a pay monthly subscription basis where you can very easily flex up and down, or is it something a bit more stagnant? A lot of these, even Cisco WebEx now, I don't know if you've heard, they have an introduction to Placetel, or they've introduced Placetel, which is their version of a pay monthly. So even Cisco, a big giant who used to not be able to offer that service, are now fully up to date. And that's when we talk about these collaboration platforms, even tomorrow, some of this will be out of date. You know, they are so rapidly evolving. What I'm going to do over the next few slides is go into a little bit more detail on each of these three topics and perhaps give you a bit of food for thought for how to assess your current collaboration platform and work out if that is something that is still going to work for you and your and your staff as you continue to grow. So firstly, with users, a couple of questions that I would start with, and whether you ask yourself or you ask your business, it's very interesting to consider what are the daily tasks of the user? And that sounds so simple, but what an engineer needs from a platform, a first line engineer, and what the sales team need may be completely different because their daily tasks are completely different. And in addition to this, it's which features enhance their experience. We'll go back to the example of an engineer. An engineer is most likely working on a tablet or mobile device. Does this collaboration platform support them to have everything that they need on a mobile device? An engineer may not require video collaboration, but what they may need is the use of document sharing and large documents at that to look at how-to guides or what the next step process is. However, your sales teams, they're going to highly rely on video, good quality video, that doesn't take up too much bandwidth because if they're working from home and they may be living with other people who are also using the internet, what platform gives a sales team the most seamless experience? For example, the addition of tasks, the addition of project management, and what an engineer needs from that platform are very different. This isn't to say that you need to have a different collaboration platform for all these users, but it is something to consider if you've got a very vast split between them. The next area leads on from the first, which is all around the tools and the features. So, do your users require inbuilt project management and task assignment? There are so many teams now that rely on these kinds of tools to assign tasks to keep people in track. Do your users need this? Is it going to support them? Is it making their life easier? And if they don't, that's fine. It may be that there are other tools more suitable. Do your users need to be able to share large files? It goes back to what we were discussing with the engineer, but also with the project management teams. There could be CAD files in there. There could be such huge files that people need to share, or are they just sharing little Word documents, little Excel documents? It could be that you are being limited by your collaboration platform because of the size of files that you can share. And thirdly, do your users need to chat with people outside of your organization using other platforms? Sometimes that is an absolute necessity to some businesses. Others say, no, we're focusing on our internal here. Anything external is done via email, done via service desk, whichever way you operate. So it's really interesting when you start to sort of interrogate your business and think, what is the landscape? What's happened in the last 12 months? Where are we now in comparison to where we were 18 months ago? It's a very different place. These sorts of simple questions, even if the answer is, yes, we're using the most perfect collaboration platform for us, that's fine. But at least you've had the opportunity to start ensuring and doing almost like a quality assurance to make sure it's right. Finally, we're going to move on to business processes. Now, this is where it can get a little bit technical, and I'll support where I can. Do you require open APIs? I mean, how is it working in the back end? How can you support users from the back end? Is it easy to roll out? Is it easy to integrate with systems that you already have? It's very important when we start looking at these platforms that they work for you. Often we have something and we kind of put up with it because it's not bad. There's nothing wrong with it, and we just say, yeah, it's fine, it's great. But we need to make sure that if we're going to actually fully adopt whichever collaboration platform it may be, whether that be Teams or whether that be Zoom, is it working for the way that we do business instead of arranging your business process around one collaboration platform? And the other piece of this, and this interoperability, also fits in very nicely when we start talking about meeting rooms and physical office spaces, is do you require the interoperability? Do you need to be able to communicate on WebEx and on Teams? Do you need to be able to communicate on Ring Central and on Google Meets? What are you currently doing? And if you end up deploying different collaboration platforms, are they going to work together? Are they easy to manage? And that's a big, big piece to consider as well in the back end. It's not just keeping the end users happy and making sure they've got all the features. It's, do you have the business bandwidth to support that and to ensure that they're being enrolled? And that's kind of comes on to the sort of final piece, which is adoption and management. How can you get everybody to agree to use a collaboration platform as a primary? That is not easy. Some people will stick with what they know, better the devil they know. Others are begging for a change. How can we make sure that when we make a business change that things go that way? A big part of this is putting trust in end users to ensuring that they're using it correctly. Are they sharing the files in the correct place, or are they still going over via email? Are they using it? Are they using their laptops to communicate via WhatsApp, even though that's not considered a business tool within your organization? How can we get our users to adopt? An example of this is Beckler offers sort of Microsoft training support training portals. We can also do this with our other vendors too. And what that enables us to do is to be able to offer, whether that be train the trainer or whether that be to the end users directly, how can you understand what these tools are capable of? A big piece that no one really talks about when they talk about collaboration tools is accessibility. Do you have people with dyslexia or dyspraxia that find it really difficult to communicate and share content in that way? How can that collaboration platform support all those users? Vice versa, do you have somebody who is a lot older and it's not used to using this? How can we support them to make sure that they understand how this platform can work for them, how they can get the most out of it, and how can we make them love it? And that's a big piece. Nothing is ever perfect, but how can we support as Beckler or as business? How can we support those end users in making sure that they are fully on board with where you are heading as a business? Something that we have also done within our organization in different areas is to almost use a traffic light system for our users. So green is, yes, these guys fully get it. They really understand. They are completely clued up and they're fully on board to use this one collaboration platform. Then we've got orange, which is, I think they kind of know, but I could definitely take it a little bit further and get them to use some of the project management pieces in that collaboration platform. And then the red is, we need to focus on getting these guys up to scratch and feeling confident. And that's where this training portal, that's where additional support can come in to ensure that, yes, we are supporting all of our users for what they need. It's the same conversation as the collaboration platform. Not every single end user needs the same thing. Some of them need different ergonomic keyboards or mice to support them. Some of them need better accessibility tools, which we all know Teams is very famous for ensuring that accessibility is at its heart of that. How can we support all these users? And I think it's a really important thing to consider when we're talking about adoption. What I've done here, and I've got star leaf to add to this as well is a matrix of things, and I'm more than happy to share this. I've picked out some key areas that I think are very top of mind from an end user perspective, but also from a back end perspective. So we can have a look at how these sort of market leaders actually compare to each other when it comes to things that are important to you. So, for example, we'll go back to this task management. Is it really important that that is part of a collaboration platform for a specific team or for a whole workforce? Well, you can see in Teams, it has that built in. It combines to-do lists, it combines planners. With WebEx and Zoom, you can integrate that with a third party, so it's still completely possible. It's just, okay, how are we going to do that, and what do we integrate with that? RingCentral have the ability to create, track, and assign and share tasks, and Google have it too. So if that is completely top priority for you, it's very important to acknowledge that, okay, what is going to work most seamlessly? However, if there is something else that is really important to you, for example, the interoperability, well, you might say, it's great that Google has the tasks, but it's not able to operate with anything else. That's important, and therefore, that's not the right platform for us, or maybe not the right platform for a specific team. However, Zoom has quite a good integration, good interoperability. So maybe that's more suitable. You can start to use matrices like this to, like I said, look at certain areas of your business, frontline workers, finance staff, IT teams, sales teams, and try and work out if it is best to have one platform to rule them all. There's nothing wrong with that if it's the lesser of all evils and it's a good rounded platform. But it may be that when you start interrogating the business, you notice that, oh, actually, there is one here that sticks out to me as being perfect for that team, and why not give it a go? So that's kind of what we're here to talk about, and the things that we want to support you in is, are you having these conversations? Are you looking at how the business has changed and evolved? And are you still doing the best for all your teams? The answer might be, actually, Tori, I've looked at everything you said, I've listened, it's fantastic. However, we're doing the right thing. We're completely on track. And that's great if you are. The other side of that is, actually, I'd never considered the different teams or the different groups within my organization and what their needs might be. It's something I can take back to the business and say, as we continue with this hybrid way of working, or fully in the office way of working, or fully remote way of working, how are we supporting users? And I think it's very important to acknowledge that times have changed. I think a lot of the time, an example of this could be where it used to be that there was a standardized laptop for everybody. Everyone got the same notebook, everybody across the business. Well, now we realize that that doesn't actually work for everybody. You've got developers, they need something with a bit more power. You've got people who are doing more admin-based tasks, but nothing too large that don't require that. And it's a way to optimize what you're putting into the business. It's a way to ensure that you are constantly following the trend of continual improvement for a business. I'm more than happy to share this, and like I said, I will be adding the star leaf to this. I just wasn't able to do that before this webinar. But that is all it from me. I know it's quite short and sweet, but a lot of what we're going to talk about today is more of a to encourage you to take the conversation away to the business and have a look at what's around. Potentially there may be some names that you haven't heard of. Maybe you haven't heard of RingCentral or Starleaf, but it's really interesting to start looking at different platforms to see if they have any legs within your organization. So thank you for joining today. I'm going to open the floor if anybody's got any questions around anything I've said, or if anyone would like to receive a copy of the slides, let me know. I think it's really interesting to start having these conversations about a lot of our business processes after COVID and after the pandemic. I think it's really, we had about 6 years of transformation in about 6 months, and that's mega, and a lot of people went out and got something. I think a lot of this conversation and a lot of what the conversation will be over the next 12 months with organizations is, now we bought the hardware, we bought the software, how are we getting the most out of it? What else can we use it for? So I hope that that's given you some food for thought. Um, if anybody has any questions or want to follow up, by all means, please get in touch with your account manager, get in touch with myself, and I'll be more than happy to support you in anything, even if it's just to have a bit of more of a conversation around any of these particular vendors and what they can offer you. It's just an interesting food for thought, I think. So with that, thank you ever so much for joining today. Really appreciate it. Like I said, if you've got any questions, please contact your account manager or contact myself, and I'll be more than happy to support you in anything. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a lovely bank holiday weekend. Thank you.